Welcome to the Hour of Power. I am Dr. Christy Avery Moore, and tonight we're going from the State House to the Assembly floor. We will be exploring the twin impact of the New Jersey 2025 elections and why neither of those can be ignored. We are so excited to have you here. It is imperative for you to know that your voice, passion, and presence matter. Ours is a community built on shared values of justice, equity, empathy, and the unwavering belief that change is possible when we come together. As we learn and engage tonight, let's continue to uplift each other, share resources, celebrate big wins and small wins, and stand in solidarity through the challenges. Thank you, Ms. Tony Hendricks, for bringing your energy, your ideas, and your passion. We can't wait to learn from you, engage with you, and share with others. Before we go any further, we'd like to take a moment to recognize our incredible president of Central Jersey Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated. Her leadership and vision have been instrumental in shaping this community and driving forward our mission of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated and the Central Jersey Social Action Committee. Please join me in welcoming President Patricia Williamson to share a few words with us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Avery Moore. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Hour of Power, from the State House to the Assembly floor, the twin impact of New Jersey's 2025 elections. My name is Patricia Williamson, and I serve as the proud president of the Central Jersey Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated is an organization of college-educated women committed to the constructive development of its members and to public service with a primary focus on the Black community. The Central Jersey Alumni Chapter, also known as CJA, comprises dynamic women united by sisterhood and committed to advancing the community through public service, scholarship, and social action across Union, Middlesex, and Somerset counties. Since its establishment 50 years ago by 30 distinguished women, CJA has expanded to more than 400 members. This evening exemplifies the principle of working better together. We are honored to welcome back Mrs. Tony Hendricks, a respected authority on civic engagement, who will provide valuable insights into the implications of the upcoming state elections. Both the gubernatorial and state assembly races play critical roles in shaping the future of our state, and we appreciate Mrs. Hendricks's leadership and participation in tonight's discussion. In closing, I would like to recognize and thank CJA Social Action Tri-Chairs Lisa Malloy Stevens, Michelle Bailey, and Adrian Strigler, as well as the entire Event Planning Committee for their dedication in organizing this program. We look forward to an engaging and informative evening. Thank you, and at this time, I will now turn this over to Lisa Malloy Stevens.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam President. My name is Lisa Malloy Stevens, and I'm one of the tri-chairs of the CJA Social Action Committee. And it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for the evening, Ms. Tony Hendricks. And trust me, this is just an abbreviated bio. She has a very long and distinguished career and a long and distinguished reputation as a in civic engagement. So Ms. Hendricks is the principal partner.
You're muted.
Okay, I apologize. I just hit my button. Ms. Hendricks is the principal partner of the Hendricks Group. Her professional career spans close to 5 decades in marketing, consulting, communications, and performing arts industries, where she has developed and delivered dozens of workshops and seminars focused on helping organizations understand the role of DEIA in building an organization and leadership model that emphasizes cultural intelligence. Tony is the founding trustee of the Lost Souls Public Memorial Project, whose mission is to uncover relevant history, raise community awareness, and build a public memorial centered around the approximately 150 New Jersey souls sold illegally into slavery. She is also a court-appointed special advocate volunteer for children in the foster care system. Ms. Hendricks is a longtime resident of Somerset and serves as the second vice president and community outreach civic engagement chairperson for the New Brunswick area branch of the NAACP. In this role, she helps develop and guide the branch's efforts to foster effective collaboration with organizations serving the community. She actively leads community engagement in areas such as voter education and registration, understanding and completing the census, redistricting, and apportionment, as well as moderating many of the branch's public forums. Tony is committed to supporting the civic engagement of high school and college students. She has conducted numerous voter education registration drives at Franklin High School, Rutgers University, and Middlesex County College, and worked with the Montgomery Township School District to develop a DEIA program. Tony is a member of the executive committee for the NAACP New Jersey State Conference and serves on the communications committee. It is my pleasure now to turn the program over to Tony Hendricks.
Well, thank you, and good evening. And thank you, Lisa, for the introduction. I truly appreciate it. You know, it's always a good day to partner with the Central Jersey Alumni Chapter, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. And it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge the New Brunswick area branch of the NAACP and our branch president, Bruce Morgan, and the entire executive committee. And we always work in partnership and we love and enjoy every moment of it. So this is just one of those opportunities that we have. And we're so exactly happy to be here this evening. All right, so now we have a program that we're trying to get through and we have a limited amount of time to do that. So I'm going to get right to the presentation. But before I do, I just need to take a minute. You know, God has blessed me of being on this earth for 7+ decades. And there have been too many times during that long life that I have felt that we are in a special moment. I'm getting tired of these special moments. But unfortunately, for those of you who are attending this webinar this evening, we're in another one of those special moments. And those special moments has to do with what is happening in our country. And this is yet another time where we all have to recognize that this is a special moment that we're living through. And we can't just talk about and fret about things that are happening that we don't agree with, things that are happening that are having a direct impact on your life or the life of your loved ones. We have to once again take control, pull ourselves into the spotlight, and make our voices heard. So if you hear nothing else from me this evening, I encourage you to please take the opportunity in November to make sure that you vote. And there'll be more said about that. So let me go ahead and jump into the presentation. And I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so during the time that I'm going to spend with you, there's a couple of things that I want to make sure occur. First, we're going to take a backward step and we're going to look at New Jersey laws and how it affects our daily lives. I think that's important because as Madam President Williamson said, there are two houses or two different things that we're going to focus on tonight. We're going to focus on the governor, but we're also going to focus on the assembly because this year, the entire assembly is up for election, as well as we are all very familiar that our governor and lieutenant governor are. And it would be remiss of me not to also mention there are many local positions that are up for re-election this year, so pay attention to those. But in order for us to understand the importance of the moment we're in now and the importance of this November's election, we have to step back. and make sure that we're grounded in the understanding of how New Jersey laws, which affect us in our daily lives, how does that process work? And then look at it through the lens of the New Jersey government structure and the role of the three branches. Now, interestingly, when we do this and we look at New Jersey in this way, I want you to also realize that a lot of what you're going to be hearing tonight, bear this in mind for next year, because it also applies to our federal government. There are nuances, but the three branches of government function fairly similar at the top. And what's at stake in November? Well, we are going to have a brief synopsis of the two major candidates for governor, and I'll explain that later when we get to that, and for the assembly. And lastly, I want to share with you, just to be absolutely positive, that when we go to the polls and we get behind that curtain and we cast our ballots, that we're being as wise about the execution of that ballot as we possibly can, as it relates to the government structure here in New Jersey. So let's take a look at, I'm just going to move something around on my screen. There we go. So how does it begin? It all begins with an idea. The laws in New Jersey always start with an idea. An idea could be something new, or it could be changing something that's already in place. So what is an idea? You take an idea and it gets developed into a bill. Understand that only a member of the actual legislature, both houses, by the way, the Assembly or the Senate, we have those two houses that make up the legislature in Trenton. Only a member of the legislature can draft a bill to begin the legislative process, not the governor. So when you're voting in November, remember, already I've stated the importance of the assembly and why we have to be very wise in how we cast our vote. But the idea for a bill can come from anyone. It could come from you. It doesn't have to come from the lawmakers. It doesn't have to come from your sorority. It doesn't have to come from the NAACP. It can come from you as an individual. This is how the laws in New Jersey works. Now, what happens to an idea that actually gets it into law is something that does require the legislature. So here's an example. When I mentioned to you that the idea can come from you, I'm sure, like myself, you have been many settings where you said, it's a shame that our children no longer learn civics. As you heard from my bio, I really enjoy working with our young people, and almost to a person when I do, and this is at the university level also, they'll say to me after the discussion, they'll come up to me and they say, we don't know these things. Everyone's telling us to vote. Everyone says young people don't vote. And why aren't you voting? But we don't really even understand the whole process of voting and how government works. And by the way, you could come into a room with some older people and they would say the same thing. So if you, as a concerned parent or as a concerned citizen, said, listen, why aren't we teaching our children civics? We need to get back to basics. They should not come out of high school without having civics taught. Well, here on the screen is an actual bill that is sitting in Trenton, and it's been sitting there since 2021. And that bill is as you're seeing on the screen, it was reintroduced in January of this year, and the bill simply stated requires 11th grade students to complete a civics course as part of their high school graduation requirements. Sounds simple, right? Right under that, you'll see the name of the primary sponsor of the bill. That is a member of the Assembly. And you can see that on January 9th of 2024, once again, the bill was referred to the Assembly Education Committee. So in the statement, you'll notice that this bill provides that beginning in the 2021-2022 school year, Each Board of Education must provide this course, right? Well, that's not a typo. You see the difference between what the bill states and what the bill date is. This is an example of a bill that's sitting and not being moved out of committee. And I'm going to show you what that means in a minute. So as a concerned citizen, if you have an idea and you get a member of the Assembly or the Senate to propose your idea and write a bill and actually bring it to the floor, then the work is only beginning in terms of what has to be done with that bill in order to get it into law. And by the way, this statement is a synopsis. There's a little bit more to it, some more specifics. But again, this is an actual bill. Now, what happens, the path of a bill, this is an explanation as to why is it still sitting there? Well, it can start in either house. And by the way, it has to be identical. So I know you hear a lot what's going on right now with the federal government shutdown and how one house passed it, the other house didn't pass it. They rewrote the bill, they changed the language. That's the same type of process that goes on in Trenton. So when you become frustrated with your Congress people at the federal level, realize you should have that same understanding of what's happening here in our state. So the path that it takes is the first reading that occurred on January 9th, and it went to committee. It's still sitting there. It has to come out of committee for a second reading, then a third reading, and then a final passage and vote on both sides of the legislature. So you have to have that occurring on the Assembly as well as the Senate. So again, we're bringing forward to you the understanding that the laws that govern your day-to-day life, and something as simple as trying to get your children or the children that you love to be able to be taught civics in high school, this is the path that it takes. But if we don't go through this, then we don't get the laws that says to the boards of education, you must teach civics. The same thing can happen for bills that you don't care for. But this is an example of the beginning. Now, what happens to it then? So let's say the bill is passed. What happens at that point is that it enters into the government structure in a flow that starts with the fact that the legislative branch enacted the law. They said, yep, we passed it. Went through the second reading, the third reading, and was passed. Once that happens, the bill goes to the executive branch, meaning the governor. The governor now has the power to sign that bill into law, or the governor can say, I don't like this bill, and can exercise a couple of ways of trying to kill the bill. One of the ways is to just, out and out veto it. Another way is to ask questions and keep sending it back for clarification. But there's another process that the governor can use where they're not saying yes, they're not saying no, so they're not committing themselves publicly, and that would be just to let the bill sit. So the bill gets enacted as a law in the legislature, but it's not signed into law until it goes through the process at the executive branch. Once it does, from there, it goes to the judicial, it's the end of the night, I'm sorry, the judicial branch, whose responsibility now in overseeing the court system is to make sure that they would interpret the law so that if a parent brought forward a lawsuit against their local high school for not teaching civics in the 11th grade, then they chose to bring it forward to the court system, the judicial branch would interpret that law and determine that the school district is in violation of the law. But there's another path that the bill also follows, and that is it gets into the different departments for the enforcement of the law. So here we see the Department of Education. So now they receive the bill, and they realize now, oh, we have to implement a new curriculum or a new course into the curriculum. So this is a very simplistic but visual path that law takes in the state of New Jersey, from the idea of something either new that needs to be introduced into law, or something that someone wants to have changed, or occasionally there's a request to change the actual Constitution, which is the overarching government law for the state of New Jersey. But this is the path that it takes. And I'm going to come back to this again, but let me point out before we move off of this slide a couple of things to make sure that it's understood. In this state, unlike many other states, one of the extraordinary powers of the governor is that the governor is the one who appoints the leaders of these different departments. Okay, that in other states it varies. In some states, you have to elect the district attorney as a for instance. It is not an appointment. So it varies so much. I don't really want to give you many other examples, but that one is always one that people understand intuitively, because they see a person running to be, the district attorney. So it's important to know that the governor does have that power, but later on, I'm going to share with you some checks and balances. So let's move on from there right now, because I don't want to run out of time. So currently, the New Jersey legislature is comprised of the following. So for the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, they're the ones I'm going to be showing here because they're the ones that are currently make up the New Jersey legislature. So in the Democratic Party currently has 25 senators serving and 52 assemblymen. The Republican Party has 15 senators and 28 assemblymen. All 80 assembly people are up for election in November. So we already looked at the path of an idea into a bill, and we realize that the assembly is an important branch of the government because they are the ones that actually enact law. They're the ones who say this is what needs to be addressed in the day-to-day lives of our citizens. And you can see clearly from the numbers that it is what we call a Democrat majority in the legislature at this time. That is something that ebbs and flows. And we have had times in New Jersey where it has been dominantly Republican. Sometimes it is pretty well shared. But the checks and balances that occur in terms of the party makeup is something that we always have to be cognizant of, particularly as we move into next year, into the national election cycle, because currently all three of the branches that I shared with you, these three branches, legislative, executive, and judicial, are all under the same control of a party. And when you have that happen, then what you have is the enactment of the laws, the signing of the laws, and the interpretation of the laws are all being done by one party. So I'm sneaking into 2026. I apologize for that, but it's important for me to take this moment to also make sure that as much as I want you to be cognizant about voting for your assembly people in this November, I want you to be cognizant next year about voting for your congressman, because it's the same scenario that will be presented to you. Okay, now, I promised that I would take that power distribution and show it to you just a little bit differently. And here's when I said that there is a distribution or a way of some checks and balances being in place, this slide is meant to do that. So we already saw that the legislative branch enacts the laws, and then the governor approves the laws. And I mentioned to you that the governor had the ability to veto the bill from the legislators. But I want you to see under the legislative branch, they can overturn the governor's veto if they have 2/3 majority vote in each house. Then we look at the cabinet, which I mentioned to you when we showed the graphic of the entire government structure, where I said that the governor appoints cabinet and other key positions. But if you'll look over here to the left, you'll see that the legislative branch approves the governor's appointees. Again, that's the tension. And I'll bring you back to the national tension that you're seeing. It's the same exact situation that we go through. Both government structures at this point behave very similarly. And that's why this is another moment that I'm living through that I wish I wasn't living through. And it's important just to mention that on the judicial side, all judges, with the exception of municipal, are appointed by the governor. So they are also subject to the approval from the legislative branch. So this is another way of looking at it, so that we can look at the power distribution and again begin to get it into our minds. It's not just about the person at the top. We have to realize the legislative branch is still very, very important. We're going to have the opportunity to have some questions, so I'm going to move on, and you'll be able to ask questions in a little bit. All right, I mentioned to you that we were going to talk a little bit about the people who are running for the role of governor and their positions. Now, I have major candidates listed here because it is important for you also to know that when you go to vote in November, there will be other candidates on the ballot for governor. There will be at least 2 other candidates on the ballot from what's called minor candidates, meaning that they represent a smaller section of the population in New Jersey, and they have a little bit of a different process. For instance, they weren't on the primary. When you went to vote in the primary, you didn't see their names because their primary process is different. We are basically a major candidate state, and our 2 major parties are Democrat and Republican, and the others are considered minor parties. So I believe that I shouldn't misspeak. I don't know if these slides are going to be available to you or not, but this is all public information. The website for Mr. Citarelli and the website for Ms. Cheryl are available for you. Please avail yourself to their personal websites, because you'll learn a lot about them that is different than what you'll hear on the news, in their ads, on social media, or even from your friends and neighbors, who, by the way, will have their own opinions and their own views. And we, as human beings, will always color what we say by those opinions and views. So it's important for you to come to your own decisions, become that wise voter, and take a moment to really investigate the individuals. I'm going to help you with that in the next 2 slides, but I just wanted to make sure you know that you don't need me to do this. If you want to investigate them on your own, in a quiet time on your own, you can do that. And then each of them has chosen someone to run for lieutenant governor. They had their first and their only debate the other night. Mr. Citarelli's running candidate was Sheriff Jim Gannon, and Ms. Cheryl's running candidate is Dr. Dale Caldwell. So these are the major candidates for governor and lieutenant governor. Now let's dig into that a little bit more. When I said to you, please look at their websites and please look at publicly available information about how they voted in their current positions and their former positions, what they've said in the past, what they're saying today, you can do that. But I'm very proud to say that something that will be coming out from the NAACP soon will be something much better than what I'm going to show you today. That's going to be able to give you a totally nonpartisan view of the 2 candidates and how to look at their positions based again upon their own words. So let's look at two issues. I have increased government. Would they increase government funding in the economy? Yes or no? And how do they feel about limit teaching racism and gender identity? Yes or no? So let's look at the funding first. In their own words, this is what the candidate has said. These are not my words. These are not the words of an opinion speaking person on television. This is their own words that Mr. Citarelli will reduce state spending by 30% and create the New Jersey Department version of Doge. However, he did support funding the Gateway Project. Ms. Cheryl is whole of government strategy to support entrepreneurs, develop our startup community, and voted for the infrastructure funding. So the infrastructure funding is a federal funding bill because she sits as a sitting congressperson. So that's where we could get the voting information from. So depending on how you feel, not your neighbor, not your friend, not somebody talking on television, not the other person, the other candidate, then you decide which one of these approaches makes sense for you in terms of who you'll vote for. And looking over on teaching racism and gender identity, the same approach. In his own words, teach slavery was central to, I would teach slavery because it was central to the Civil War, but we are not going to teach that white people perpetuate systemic racism. We will implement a true Parents' Bill of Rights. We're going to roll back the LGBTQ curriculum. It goes too far. Ms. Cheryl voted against the Parents' Bill of Rights. Racism permeates everyday life in the United States. School segregation is at the same levels as the 1960s. So if this is your issue, if you have children in school, if you have people that are still part of the education system, and this is important to you in how you view the candidate, then pay attention to what they're saying to you based upon this being something that's important to you. So I'm picking things that may be important to you and may not be important to you, but voting is very personal. And you have to approach it from understanding what is important to you and then look for where do they stand on it. And the only thing I would like to add to that, which I really believe in, please don't be a one issue voter, because there are numerous issues. Here's two more, and I'll stop after these two. There's the housing shortage. You can't live in this state and not be confronted with the housing shortage, whether it's for you, for your loved ones, for people you know. It's there, it's real. One approach is regional, driving population growth to transit hubs and urban centers with no mandated housing construction in every municipality. The other is convert underutilized infrastructure and commercial buildings into housing units, strengthen first-time homebuyer assistance programs, crack down on negligent and price-fixing landlords. Is this an issue to you? If it's an issue to you, then make sure it's your vote and you need to understand what the candidates stand for in that issue. Criminal justice. Expand community policing and protect qualified immunity for police, which protects officers against lawsuits. Oppose civilian review boards. Would recruit more women and persons of color. The other, fund smart policing strategies, develop trust between law enforcement communities, support resources for police officers, and funding re-entry services. Again, what is important to you? That's how you need to look at it. And then this is just a reiteration of what you probably already know. Most of you live in either District 17, 18, or 19, and these are your incumbent assemblymen on top, and then the individuals who are running against them. So get to know them. You can go in on their websites and learn the same thing I just talked about. And to close out the majority of what I've talked about. I just wanted to show you another visual about the checks and balances between the legislative branch and the governor, and implore you to please put as much energy into investigating and understanding who's running for assembly as you are for governor. And finally, we see a lot of quotes from John Lewis. I'm going to be quiet and let you read this one because this is the purpose of this workshop or this seminar this evening. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Toni Hendricks. We truly appreciate the insight and passion you've shared with us tonight. That before I move any further, I want to honor and say welcome to a most distinguished guest among us. Please join me in extending our heartfelt respect and admiration to the New Jersey State Social Action Coordinator, Ms. Dr. Alicia Benjamin Stinnett. I understand she is in attendance tonight. Thank you so much, Dr. Benjamin Stinnett, for participating with our seminar tonight. So thank you again, Ms. Toni Hendricks. And now we're going to open the floor for questions. Anyone who has a question, please type it in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll do our best to get to as many as possible. Let's keep this conversation going. The first question, please.
Okay, the first question we have, it says, should the election result in different parties in the governor's office and assembly, how difficult will it be for the governor to enact his or her agenda?
Say that one more time, please, just so I'm sure I understood it.
Sure. Should the election result in different parties in the governor's office and assembly, how difficult will it be for the governor to enact his or her agenda?
Okay, I thought that's what you said. And I want to answer it this way. The word difficult is the word that I was trying to catch. Because the word difficult would imply that you would agree with the governor, whoever that governor might be, in terms of their agenda in putting forward the law rather than the assembly. So what it presents is more of a collaborative, a need to collaborate and a need to go into further discussion between the governor and the legislature. That is a process that is intended to bring more people into the decision-making process to be able to represent more voices. So if there's a tension or a disagreement between the governor and the legislature, then it's a matter of who can bring forward the most voices and the importance of the law. But in the end, someone is going to be disappointed. Someone's going to feel like they won and someone's going to feel like they lost, because that is the way that politics works. And by the way, in this state, the most important group are the people who are not registered to either party. They represent over 40% of the electorate right now. So that's important to know. The Democrats may have the numbers in terms of their representation, but they rely on the non-affiliated voters in order to get there. So there's that need for them to go back to their constituents. That's why you getting involved and you sending information, you writing and calling your legislature and putting the pressure on for what you want. That's what you have to do. You have to do that. But in the end, someone's going to win and someone's going to lose.
Thank you. Question number 2.
Hi. Are all New Jersey judges appointed for life like the Supreme Court?
Ooh, I don't want to answer that because
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
That is a great question, but you know what? I can get that answer and I'll pass it along.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think we have another one.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. The next question is, why does my vote matter for these governor elections when it seems like the federal government is making changes that impacts us anyway?
Well, to an extent, the laws of the land, if you will, at the federal level do have an impact on us. But I would also suggest to you that when you think about what is that impact, you think about how it gets implemented. So, for instance, right now, there are many opportunities for our state and other states to have enact laws differently than they are enacted at the federal level. So the federal government, they develop a law and they say, okay, there has to be an election every November on November 4th. This is a classic example. But every state has a different way of running their election process, from what the ballot looks like to what the machines that are being used to how names are organized to who can vote. In this state, you can now vote if you are not incarcerated, even if you were on probation or parole, or if you've ever been convicted of a crime. In this state, you can get back on the election rolls and vote, or if you haven't been convicted yet, you can vote. If it's a misdemeanor, you can still vote. In other states, you can never vote again. So while we hear a lot about laws that are implemented at the federal level, how we actually implement them at the local level is different. Same thing now with the COVID vaccines. That's something that's very recent that is happening. We had, new directives coming out about who should and who shouldn't be getting access to the COVID vaccines. And then you see governors of states saying, nope, still the same. Everybody has access to it. So there is a lot of overarching law that comes out of the federal government, but the way our democracy works, the state rules still have a lot of freedom in how they implement those laws. So yeah, you can still do it. And by the way, if there's anyone on here who can correct me, I believe in New Jersey, the judges have a retirement age, but I'll definitely research that for you and let you know, but it just popped into my head that might be the situation.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I have another one. Okay, where can I find a comprehensive list of the candidates? I'm struggling to find a good resource.
Of the candidates for
every position, all of the ones that are up for election, like a comprehensive list, or should they go individually to different websites,
Okay,
researching each one?
so without really understanding what their lenses that they're looking at, as I
Okay.
mentioned earlier, that there are local elections, and there are people of county level are up for reelection, and people at the state level up for reelection. So the easiest way I can answer that is that if it's a local municipal election, which many of you have people that are being elected, that information would be available through your local state level. I just saw somebody, asking about it at the
Asking
state
about
level.
the state level. Yes.
Okay, so at the state level, everyone's voting for the same governor or lieutenant governor. But when it comes to your assembly, it's by your district. So you can go in on nj.gov.vote. And I think this is going to be covered, so I don't want to step too much on the next speaker. But it is the New Jersey has a fabulous website that you can go in and access, and you can find out all of those answers. And it is easily searchable, and you can go in on nj.vote.gov and find those answers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have another question. It says, as a fairly new New Jersey transplant, what is the best way to become an informed voter and learn more about the different systems of government at play in the state?
Keep attending the Deltas these webinars, because I'm telling you, they are all over it. This is not a once and done for them. There are also other very active social activist groups just like mine, which is the NAACP. We have a state level website you can go in on. We have a website at our local level that you can go in on, and we also have continually do workshops and bring the information. So I would say engage with organizations. There is also the United Black Agenda, which is it brings together all of the many of the social justice civil rights organizations in New Jersey under one umbrella, if you will, and you can get your viewpoint from there. But the simple fact of the matter is that it's who you trust as a trusted voice in terms of where you want to get your information on a broad brush like that. That's really so. If you associate as a Republican, they have websites that you can go in on their websites and learn all about their candidates. Same things with the Democrats. And yeah, I'm seeing Urban League. Yeah, absolutely. There are numerous civil rights and social justice organizations out there all trying to get us to vote and to vote wisely and in an educated way. Just make sure that you're not getting your information from a partisan viewpoint unless you want to be, and don't take your information from TikTok and Instagram and all those other, so don't do it. And also understand the difference between a person on TV who's an opinion person versus a person who is a news broadcaster. I would just say that.
Thank you.
You're
Hey,
welcome.
hey, one more question. Well, it starts with good evening, Miss Hendricks, and thank you.
Good
What is the
evening.
what is the best strategy for moving a bill out of committee? The bill that you referenced, A-1510, regarding civics education for high school juniors, it actually dates back to 2020. It has taken on different bill numbers, i.e. A-778 and A-4080 from
Mhm.
2020 to the current bill in 2024. All of these bills were referenced to the Education Committee and it never moved.
Yeah, that's right. So go on and the New Jersey Legislature's website, New Jersey Legislature, that is the title of the website. You can identify who's on the Education Committee and start writing them and calling them. Say, get it done, move it. What are you doing? You're sitting on your hands. You have to make your voices heard, because they get a lot of ideas that come into them. They get a lot of bills that come into them. And the squeaky wheel gets the most grease. So whatever is important to you, you have to raise your voice, and you have to make sure that the people who are like-minded as you are raising your voice. Write them, call them. If you want to show up in Trenton when they're in session, show up in Trenton and when they're in session and testify. That's what you got to do. You got to fight for it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Tony Hendricks. Thank you so much
There's
for
one more
sharing your
question.
time and informing and inspiring us. I'm sure there are other questions. We will collect all of the questions and we will get them to Miss Hendricks. And we will send them to the participants to make sure that we answer everything. So
May I, Christy, for just
yeah.
a moment? There's a question in the chat I want to give a quick answer to.
Oh, okay.
It wanted to know what is the NAAC position on election
yeah.
ballot reform. At the state level, the New Jersey State Conference of the NAACP puts out a bill track, and it's accessible on the New Jersey State Conference website, and we'll get that information to you. And we do a very comprehensive listing of bills that we are promoting, bills that we are against. So if you're interested in our position on any bill that's sitting there, that take a look. That's the bill track on the New Jersey State Conference NAACP website. Thank you for allowing me to do that, Christy.
Sure. Now we're going to move on to the next part of our program with Miss Adrienne Strigler, who will instruct us on how we can become directly involved.
Thank you, Christy, and thank you, Ms. Tony Hendricks, for such an informative program. So I think we're all on this webinar, and we all realize that it's really, really important that we get out to vote. Participating in elections is one of our key freedoms, and no matter what you believe or who you support, it is important that we all exercise our right to vote. It is really our responsibility, and it's a privilege that each of us as citizens should embrace. By participating in elections, you play an active role in shaping the future of your community and your country. And your vote carries the power to influence policies, hold leaders accountable, and create a more inclusive society. So next slide, please. We're going to talk about some key dates that are coming up. Can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you. So in this upcoming general election, September 20th is actually the date that the mailing of the vote by mail ballots begin. And so those ballots are already out and people are already starting to vote. So think about that. October 14th is the voter registration deadline, and we're going to talk a little bit more about how you can register to vote if you already are not registered. October 25th to November 2nd starts our early voting period. New Jersey is very voter friendly, and we have the opportunity to vote early. And so if you can take an opportunity to do that. And then on October 28th is the deadline to apply for mail-in ballots by mail. So if you are, you're going to be away on election day or during early voting, it's a good opportunity now to apply for a mail-in ballot. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to do that. On October 31st, it's the deadline for the mail-in ballots for overseas and military. So it's important that our troops overseas are able to vote, and so they have a deadline as well. November 3rd at 3 o'clock, that's the deadline for the in-person mail-in ballot applications to be received. And then on November 4th is actually the general election. So always make a plan to vote if you can, and bring other people along. So let's talk a little bit about there are 3 ways that you can vote in the state of New Jersey. New Jersey is considered a voter-friendly state because we do have laws that allow for multiple ways to vote. In our state, we have the ability to vote by mail-in ballot, we have early in-person voting, and we have also the ability to vote on election day, on our actual election day. So to vote by mail, registered voters can apply for a vote by mail ballot by following the instructions found on the New Jersey NJ.gov website that was referenced by Ms. Hendricks earlier in her presentation. You can download and print the application for a vote by mail ballot and either mail it in to your county clerk, or you can actually take it to your county clerk. And if you have any questions, please reach out to your county clerk. To vote by mail, once you get the ballot, you can return it to the mail-in ballot the following ways. You can just go ahead and mail it in. It has to be postmarked on or before 8 p.m. on election day and be received by your county board of elections on or before the 6th day after the close of the polls. You can also do the secure ballot drop box. So place your mail-in ballot in one of the county's secure ballot drop box before 8 p.m. on election day. And you can find the Dropbox locations on the nj.gov site. Or you can also take it to your Board of Elections office. So remember, you can deliver your vote by mail ballot in person to your County Board of Elections office by 8 p.m. on election day. Just to note that your vote by mail ballot cannot be returned when you vote in person at the early voting or on election day. The poll workers will tell you that they cannot accept your vote, the mail-in ballot, and that you have to take it to one of the locations. The other opportunity we have is early in-person voting. This allows for all registered voters to cast their ballot in person early using the voting machine, and during the in-person early voting period prior to election day. You can choose to vote in person when it's convenient for you. This allows for flexibility and allows you multiple opportunities to get in and vote, because a lot of people sometimes are constrained by their work schedules, and so this allows it to be more convenient to vote. So during this early in-person voting period, it's important to note that you can vote with your ballot in any of the county's designated early in-person voting locations. So it might not necessarily be the polling place that you vote in all the time. But you can go to anywhere in your county and vote, and you can find where those are available on the nj.gov site. So early votings will be opened from at least 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and at least 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sundays. There's no appointment necessary, and there are accommodations for people with disabilities. And then, so just a reminder that the early voting starts for general election October 25th to November 2nd. And then the third way to vote, where most people utilize, is just to go to your polling location. Your polling location is open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. on election day. Go to the nj.gov site for your polling location, and there's a list of all polling locations. There's a polling locations page where you can locate your specific polling location. And just to remember, a reminder that general election day is on November 4th, 2025. So let's talk about people who may not be registered to vote. If you're not registered to vote, you can do so right now by scanning the QR code that is on your screen. This is a two-part process. First, the link will take you to a form where you will be asked for contact information. And then once you go and you submit there, you will then go to the site, the nj.gov site, where you will then complete your actual registration application. So it's important that you do know that information that you share on this site, on this link, will not be shared or sold. So the information is kept confidential, is kept within NAACP. So when you go to register, and if you could go to the next slide, please. If you go to register, you're going to need a current driver's license or a non-driver identification card issued by the New Jersey Motor Vehicle Commission, or a social security number. So this is the site that Ms. Hendricks referenced earlier, the newjersey.gov site, where you will be directed to complete your registration. This entire process takes less than 5 minutes. You can still go to your county clerks and register as you would, but this is so convenient, so I would highly suggest that you do this. Just to go back to the nj.gov site, this site has a wealth of information. So in addition to providing the dates that we discussed in the prior slide and registering the vote, the site allows you to check your voter status and polling location. And this is important because some people may have moved since they last voted, or some people may not have voted in some time. So you want to always go here and check your voter status so that if there's any hiccups there, you have an opportunity to know what your status is and if your polling location has changed, so that you're not all frazzled on election day. You can also on this site track the status of your ballot to ensure that it is counted. Just a quick story. I had actually dropped our ballots in for my entire family. We went to track the ballots and found out that my daughter's ballot had not been counted. And when I actually found out the reason, it was actually quite enlightening, because what happened was I dropped off 5 ballots, but if you drop off more than 4, that 5th ballot would not be counted. So it's important to go here and check your status of your ballot. So there's a wealth of information again on this site, and we suggest that you become very familiar with the site. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. But next, I will turn it over to Reverend Dr. Katina Jackson. Thank you.
Thanks, Adrienne, for those instructions. And now we're going to close out the program with a call to action from Reverend Dr. Katina Jackson.
Good evening. I am Reverend Dr. Katina Jackson, and I'm here to remind you that the power is you. Rock the vote. My sisters, my brothers, my friends, beloved community, let's be clear. Civics matters. Civic engagement is not an option. It is the oxygen of our democracy. And here's the truth. The power is you. Tony Hendricks was exceptional in reminding us tonight that a bill is not just words on paper. A bill becomes a law, and laws shape our schools, our jobs, our healthcare, our safety, and our future. The legislative branch enacts those laws, the executive branch approves those laws, and the judicial branch interprets these laws. But do you know where the real power sits? The real power sits with you, the people. because you are not just a spectator. You are part of the checks and balances. You are the heartbeat of democracy. And your voice, your vote, is the instrument of change. So I am calling on you today to be an educated electorate. Know your ballot, learn who your candidates are. Don't just take the headlines, but dig deep. Understand who is asking for your vote and what they stand for. And when it's time to go to the polls, go. Cast your ballot, rock the vote, and don't go alone. Take somebody with you. Bring your sister, your brother, your neighbor, your friend, your colleague. Tell your family, tell your friends. Share what you've learned, because an educated community is an empowered community. And we are an empowered community. And tonight we are empowered the more. Thank you, Tony, for inspiring us and educating us. Your voice is your vote, and your vote is your power. Don't leave it sitting at home. Don't let it go unused. Use it, and use it boldly. Because when you show up, when we show up, when we cast our ballots together, we are unstoppable. So let me say it one last time, loud and clear. Educate yourself, educate others, go to the polls, rock the vote, and vote. This is your call to action. In Tony's words, put yourself in the spotlight. Go to the polls on November the 4th and rock the vote.
Woo! Thank you, Dr. Jackson. Yes, closing on that high note, I turn it over to our social action tri-chairs, Miss Lisa Malloy Stevens, Miss Michelle Bailey, and Miss Adrian Striegler. Woo!
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Reverend Dr. Katina Blackman Jackson. Now, that was a call to action, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope we all take that to heart. I hope we all were inspired. We're fired up and ready to go. We get out there, we register if we're not. If we are, we check our status. Check the have your family and friends check their status. Bring people to the polls with you. Because this is, and I know we hear it a lot, but every election is critical. But what happens in New Jersey is going to affect how we live for the next few years. So just educate yourself and get out and vote. And that being said, it truly is my pleasure to thank Tony Hendricks for agreeing to help us to put this webinar on. I hope you were inspired. I hope you received some good information. And then I hope you continue and go out and we put some links in the chat for you to get some more education so that when you do go to the polls, you are confident and you feel good about who you make, what selection you make when you get behind the curtain. So there is a participant evaluation. I've been dropping the link in the chat. So in order for us to continue to put what we feel or hope is good programming on, we need your feedback. So we're asking you to either scan the QR code that's currently on the screen or click the link in the chat and provide your honest feedback about the programming so that we can continue to develop programs that meet the needs of Middlesex, Somerset, and Union County, because that's really why we do this. We're here to serve you, so we want to know what you think. And if there are any programs that you would like to see us put on, please include that in your comments. So thank you for attending the Hour of Power. We hope it was informative. We hope it was inspiring, and we hope it was motivational. And I did put the links up. If you want more information about upcoming programs from either Central Jersey Alumni Chapter or from the New Brunswick NAACP, please avail yourself of our websites. We both have a wealth of information on our sites, and it does give information about our program. So I would be remiss if I did not thank our president, Patricia Williamson, for her welcome earlier in the program and for her continued support of the Social Action Committee. And then a big shout out to Dr. Alicia Benjamin Stinnett, our New Jersey State Social Action Coordinator, who was on the webinar tonight, and we thank her for her continued support. And then a big thank you to the Social Action Committee, and in particular, the Planning Committee for this webinar. We are just the face of the committee, but we have a lot of hardworking women behind the scenes who actually make the programming work. So thank you all for your help. And thank you to our award-winning technology team, because we could not do a webinar without technology. So I don't know if Adrian or Michelle want to chime in, but thank you,
Just
thank you.
hi, wealth of information. But again, do your research and please go vote. Thank you.
And thank you all who participated and who planned out this program. And the one thing that I just wanted to close out with is it doesn't end when you vote on November 4th. I'm saying when you vote on November 4th, because I think based on this presentation, you will all get out and vote on November 4th. It is a continuous process where afterwards we have to hold the people that we put into office accountable. And we have to continue to show up to make sure that these people that we are electing are doing the job that they said that they would do. So it doesn't just stop on November 4th. We got to keep pushing. So thank you. Thank you all.
Okay, and that thank you to our participants. So we don't want to leave you out, because
Yes.
we hope you did get a wealth of it was a wealth of information, and we hope that you did get some nuggets to take away from this webinar, and we hope to see you at future programs. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful night.